All right, let's jump right into this explainer because we have some massively exciting news about a beloved childhood icon making a totally triumphant return. Look, if you grew up anywhere from the 90s to today, or honestly, even if you've just spent any time on social media in the last decade, you know exactly who we're talking about. We're talking about Pingu. The mischievous, loudly honking little guy is back, and today we're going to break down exactly how this happened, the genuinely fascinating history behind his creation, and why a brand new production partnership has animation fans absolutely thrilled right now.
So how exactly did a mischievous, gibberish-speaking penguin conquer the globe in the first place, and why is his return such a massive deal today? Well, the internet has literally been buzzing nonstop ever since the recent announcement that Mattel and Aardman Animations, the legendary UK studio behind Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run, are actually teaming up to co-develop a brand new stop-motion TV series featuring Pingu. This is huge news. We're not just talking about a basic run-of-the-mill reboot here. It's a dedicated return to the very tactile, chaotic, and highly artistic roots that made this character a global sensation to begin with.
To put it in the words of Mattel's chief franchise officer, Josh Silverman, he really hit the nail on the head. He talked about combining Aardman's stop-motion magic with Pingu's universal charm. Now remember, Mattel acquired Pingu way back in 2011 when they bought HIT Entertainment, officially adding him to their giant catalog of iconic brands. And Aardman's chief creative director, Sarah Cox, echoed that exact same excitement, specifically pointing out their shared love for comedy that totally transcends language barriers. And honestly, that phrase right there, transcends language barriers, that is the absolute secret sauce of Pingu's massive historical success.
Section 1. The Genius of Penguinese.
Now you might be wondering, how do you actually build that kind of universal, language-defining charm? Well, it all starts with his incredibly iconic voice. The secret behind all those famous honks and noises is actually a theatrical technique called gremolot. It's an old technique used in commedia dell'arte that sounds remarkably like a real structured language, but is essentially complete gibberish. The late, great Italian voice actor Carlo Bonomi adapted this into what we now lovingly call Penguinese. And get this, here is a truly staggering fact. From 1990 all the way to 2000, Bonomi voiced every single character on the show entirely without a script. None. He just drew inspiration from his local Milanese dialect, mixed it with abstract clown languages from France and Italy, and created a language of noises that anyone, anywhere in the world could instinctively understand.
Later on, voiceover artist David Sant really pulled back the curtain on how that wild process actually worked. He said, "The language sounds random, but it's actually quite precise. We made up about 95% of the words on the day." You see, when a British company eventually bought the rights to Pingu, David Sant and Marcello Magni took over the voice duties. And because they both had strong backgrounds in physical theater, they totally understood the assignment. They literally had to translate English scripts into Penguinese while watching the screen, inventing really specific words on the fly. So like telebelly meant toy, and cioccolani meant drink. It wasn't just random screaming in a booth, it was a deeply emotive, fully improvised performance that really gave the show its soul. Tracing this back for a second, Pingu was originally created in the 1980s by a Swiss-German animator named Ottmar Gutmann. That initial golden era, with Carlo Bonomi flying solo and voicing literally everyone, ran from 1990 to 2000. Then we hit a pivotal shift in 2001 when a British company buys the rights, which leads directly to Sant and Magni taking the mic in 2003 under HIT Entertainment. This timeline is super crucial to understand because it marks the franchise's evolution from this small regional Swiss-German studio project into a massive, globally managed intellectual property that needed real, seamless continuity.
Section 2. Stop-motion magic and mischief.
But, beyond the gibberish, it was the painstaking, hands-on animation techniques that truly brought this specific penguin to life. Honestly, the process just to make Pingu walk is absolutely mind-boggling. The animators couldn't just bend a single clay figure over and over again. Instead, they used a technique called replacement animation. So, step 1, you remove the stationary puppet. Step 2, you replace it with a completely different puppet raising a leg. Step 3, you swap through 8 distinct resin puppets just to complete one single walk cycle. When the UK team took over, the original puppets shipped over from Switzerland were literally falling apart. The animators actually described them as looking like zombie penguins. So they had to make brand new molds and recast hundreds of distinct resin puppets. This is what allowed for those wildly expressive, squashed flat or stretched tall movements without having to resculpt wet clay for every single frame. It was incredibly labor-intensive, but totally worth it. Animator Steve Cox perfectly captures the secret to the character's enduring appeal here. He said he would strip away all adult notions of consequences and have Pingu just doing things without thinking. And that right there,
That is the absolute magic of the show. Pingu wasn't acting with adult logic, and more importantly, there was no patronizing moral narration telling kids how they're supposed to behave. Pingu was just a genuinely naughty, relatable kid who got into trouble, made a huge mess, and then immediately tried to hide it or, blame his baby sister Pinga. It's that raw, completely unfiltered childhood impulse that made him so deeply endearing to kids all around the world.
Section 3. Banned and controversial episodes.
Well, as you can probably imagine, that total lack of a moral compass wasn't exactly beloved by absolutely everyone. The original series, created by Ottmar Gutmann, was completely unembarrassed about the sometimes gross realities of childhood. We're talking bodily fluids, potty humor, and honestly, some straight-up scary imagery. This led to pretty significant pushback from strict television broadcasters, especially the BBC in the UK. For example, there was this famously messy episode where Pingu essentially tipped his sister's potty right over his head. The BBC demanded edits because, understandably, they didn't want toddlers copying it. The studio actually had to make two completely different versions of the episode, one substantially messier than the other, which ended up getting quietly relegated straight to DVD.
The actual broadcast rap sheet for this show is kind of wild when you look at it. The episode Little Accidents was officially banned from broadcast in several places, just for heavy toilet humor and pretty realistic depictions of urination. Then you have Pingu's Dream. If you saw this as a kid, you definitely remember it. It featured this terrifying giant walrus that absolutely haunted young viewers, which led to an unofficial ban and quiet removal from UK television in 2003. And finally, Pingu quarrels with his mother, which was heavily edited or just completely cut in the US and UK, simply because the mother actually slaps Pingu across the face. It's crazy to think about now, but that dark, slightly edgy trivia is exactly what keeps older viewers so deeply engaged and incredibly nostalgic for the original run.
Section 4. The Legacy of Newt Newt.
So how on earth did we get from a controversial, slightly edgy 90s stop-motion cartoon to the massive, modern internet phenomenon we have today? 7.69 million. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the massive number of subscribers on the official Pingu YouTube channel right now. We are talking about literal billions of views across the platform. Over recent years, Pingu didn't just survive his retirement from traditional television, he thrived. He transformed into a viral pop culture juggernaut. His iconic Newt Newt catchphrase and misbehaving antics sparked endless meme formats, totally capturing the hearts of longtime nostalgic fans, but also entirely new generations who are just casually scrolling through their social media feeds.
Now, to keep that massive global audience engaged, the franchise has definitely had to experiment over the years. Taking a look at the two eras, on one side you have the original series, the tactile, stop-motion, clay, and resin animation pioneered by Ottmar Gutmann. On the other side, you have Pingu in the City, which was a 2017 computer-generated spin-off produced in Japan by Polygon Pictures. In this modern take, Pingu actually moved from the Antarctic to a big city, trying really hard to help citizens with their jobs, which of course always resulted in total chaos. And while it kept the spirit alive and was incredibly popular globally, fans have always held a very special place in their hearts for the gritty, tactile feel of real stop-motion.
Which brings our entire narrative full circle right back to the breaking news. Mattel and Aardman's new co-production is officially returning Pingu to those authentic stop-frame animation roots. And this is exactly why this matters for animation fans. Aardman is literally the undisputed gold standard for claymation. Their deep commitment to quirky irreverence, genuine charm, and character-driven storytelling aligns perfectly with what made Pingu great in the first place. They are absolutely the perfect studio to take the baton from Gutmann's original vision and carry this legacy forward into brand new, fresh, snow-filled stories.
So, here's the big, provocative question I want to leave you with today. Are you ready for the Aardman era of Pingu? The combination of Aardman's legendary, meticulous craftsmanship with Pingu's chaotic, no-consequences energy just feels like a match made in animation heaven, doesn't it? We've seen how this character survived broadcast bans, completely bypassed language barriers, and weathered the transition to CG, only to emerge as a multi-million subscriber internet icon. Now, he's going back to his roots. Keep your eyes peeled for this reboot, because if it's anything like the original, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.